Hello, Umut here. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to talk about books and we will do some bookmarks for these books. This is the first one, Soul of the Border by Matteo Righetto. This is a literary fiction and it's actually a short book, around 200 pages. Actually, I finished this book this morning and I'm inspired to do a bookmark because I loved it so much and I wanted to introduce it to as many people as possible. It's a literary fiction, as I said, and it's about the story of a family which live in Italy at the end of 19th century. So it's also a historical fiction. Augusto is the father and Joel is one of the daughters. They have 3 kids and the family is very attached to each other. Is a growing tobacco, but because they are very poor, to be enough for the family, he also goes across the border through Austria and smuggles tobacco. Joel is the eldest of all and her father takes her with him in one of the journeys. From one of the journeys that he goes alone, he never comes back and it's been 2 years since the family didn't see him. And they are still poor and hungry, so Joel decides to go on the journey alone. She's a very courageous young girl, and along this journey we read about her difficulties, but in the end how she discovers where her father went and what happened to him. It's a very emotional book, very moving. In the end I cried a little bit. It's about family, friendship, revenge, how bad people are, but at the same time some of them are really good. That makes big difference. So it makes you feel many things at the same time, and I'm sure I will think about this book for days or weeks to come. It was one of those beautiful ones. And I thought the writing was also beautiful, so I would really recommend this book if you like historical fiction or literary fiction. It also had a mystery element that made me really curious what happened to Augusto and what will happen in the end. So in the meantime, I started making the book tag, as you saw, and simply I punched the corners to make them round. As usual, I do it every time I do bookmarks because I don't like the edges, the corners. And I chose a couple of distress paints to create the same color of background as I see on the book. I drew the mountains because it's around the mountains, the story, and the book cover is reflecting that. Very easy, and I made a sun because it was on the cover with one of the bottles, as you saw, and I just mixed some distress paints. You saw the colors on the screen and you will find the supplies down below at the description area to reflect the same colors that I see on the cover. And now I'm coloring the mountains with some tones of blue. I'm mixing 3 colors, as you see. Again, you saw all the colors on screen, and because the blue side has some darkness and all these shadows and stuff, I'm going to mix these 3 colors and to give the mountain effect. I'm going to use the dark blue for the shadow areas on the mountains so that it will be more clear that these are mountains. I decided to use paints today because I thought it would be easier to give these effects. So that's what I'm doing, and distress paints are really easy to manipulate. They are mixed media paints, and this is a small area anyway. And by no means this needs to be perfect. It's just to reflect the same color scheme and how it looks on the book. Of course it will be different, that's a print, this is handmade, but I'm just doing my best to reflect the same look and feel. And finally I'm going to paint the sun. I took spiced marmalade, but I thought it was very bright, So I'm just toning it down with rusty hinge so that it's not so bright compared to the other colors. As you see, the book is covered with some crackles, mosaic texture. So I took this stamp from Stamperia, and this is the number. So you can Google it wherever you live. And I took this Versafine sepia color ink from my stash, and I'm going to use this to reflect that texture. And I'm really happy with the result. It looks very similar. I love this stamp anyway. It's one of my favorite background stamps. It's very versatile, and here, see, there came a time that I will use it even on a bookmark. And this is a powder pad that you use for embossing. I'm going to emboss the title of the book. I generally emboss it to make it neat and tidy. And I use this stamp set this time because I found it the most similar. You don't have to have exact things, it's just the most similar is fine. And I'm using vanilla color embossing powder from WoW because it's not pure white on the book. So I wanted to have something reflecting that color. And I'm using my Versamark. The stamp set I'm using is from Marianne Designs, and here is the bookmark. Finally, I gave a little ribbon, like a string, this one, natural string, in brown color that will match the crackles. And I love it. It's very similar to the cover. I love the book. Now I can put it in my library together with its bookmark. Now the second book I want to talk today is a book I read again, and look how beautiful it is. This is a book beautiful inside out, and I wanted to show you the spine, which is another beauty when you put it in your library. This is also a historical fiction that takes place in 1914, just at the beginning of the First World War. And the heroine is a woman called Clara Waterfield. She had a difficult childhood. She was living with her mother, but she had a difficult health condition. Her bones were very sensitive and prone to breaking very easily, so she spent her childhood at home. Then her mother dies, and she is summoned to go to a house, a big house called Shadowbrook, to fill the glass house that they have with exotic plants. This is her job. However, the house is very weird. The owner never goes out, and she's not allowed to go in some rooms. They are locked. The maids are afraid. So the situation becomes very creepy. And Clara tries to resolve all this mystery of the house and what's actually happening. I don't want to give away so much. You need to check it out yourselves. It's very beautifully written. I really like the way the writer wrote it. It's very suspenseful, thrilling, and in the end there are lots of twists and turns. That's all I can say. Now let's create our bookmark. Again, I'm going to round the edges. Well, that's the wrong side. There are some rose petals on the book cover, as you see, and it's very beautifully done. But before, there is this texture that you see at the very back. For that, I chose another Stamperia background stamp. I love this stamp too. You can see I used it many times. And one of the distress inks that I have, tattered rose, to reflect the same color. And I'm not trying to be perfect. I want it as subtle as I see in the book. So I'm just stamping around the edges in a very subtle way. And I'm not worried if it's perfect because it's going to stay all at the background. And after this, I'm going to select 3 colors of distress paints. Again, to draw the rose petals and paint them. First I'm going to draw them here and there. As you see in the book, it's all around. I'm not going to do so many because this is a little bookmark. I'm just trying to define the corners of all the petals really vaguely, and I'm using tetradraws again for the base of the petals, and you will see afterwards I will make it darker and give the shadowing and highlights. This is festive berries. It's a little bit like wine color, not pink, not red, in between. I'm letting the brush do its work really. I'm leaving some areas empty for the white highlights to come through. And this is aged mahogany to give the shadows so that it looks like a petal that is folded. And I'm going to use a little bit even black later, you will see. And this is just to make it more vibrant and more realistic. I'm going to apply the same method to all of the petals, but to save some time I'm only showing you one, and I'll do the rest on my own. The black here is a little bit too much, so I'm softening it. I'm just going as I see, and finally where the petal goes off the flower I make it white, and I did all the rest. I took my two stamp sets to reflect the title. This is from Inka Dinka Do, and it's quite similar to the title I see on the book. So I'm going to use this and an archival ink. But before I do that, I decided to do more background work because I saw these scripts on the cover, and using the same archival ink, vermilion red, I think, I'm just going to stamp here and there. This is a penny black stamp to reflect those scripts, and that's all. I'm not going to exaggerate. And now using the same archival ink, I'm going to stamp the name of the book, and this time I'm not going to emboss. So this color is reflecting very nicely the color I see on the cover, so I'm happy with it. And this other alphabet from Concord and Ninth is the same as I see on the cover to stamp off. And there are a little bit splashes too on the book. It's hard to see from the camera, but I'll do it with the same distress paint. And I think in the book it's reflecting the glass shattered, so I'll do it. This is also another border stamp that I have, and I'm going to use it to create the gold spine that you see on the bookmark. I'm just going to stamp this little flower first here and there, because there are some flowers on the spine too, where the gold spine is. And I'm using my gold embossing powder from WoW. So after I emboss these little flowers, use whatever you have, it doesn't matter. There are a lot of flowers on the spine. I will stamp this other stamp and create the gold border up and down. I'm not going to stamp it all around, not to create a lot of elements everywhere. So I will leave right and left empty, and I will use the same gold embossing powder. This is super fine, so it's easier to emboss smaller areas. And I'm going to heat set it, and it will create a beautiful bookmark. I hope you liked it too. I really enjoyed doing this, and it's quite similar to the book. I am surprised myself, but I really love it, and I love this book. So when you love a book and create a bookmark, it's double pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it too. I'll show you close up to see the gold embossing, how beautiful it looks. I'm very happy you like these episodes of books and bookmarks. From the comments I understand. I hope you enjoyed this one too, and thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.